Have you ever wondered why racism persists in America, the land of the free and the home of the brave? It's a question that has perplexed and pained many, and the answer lies deep within the threads of our society, woven into our psyches and systems. At the heart of racism, we find implicit bias. These are the unconscious attitudes and stereotypes that influence our perceptions, actions, and decisions. Born from cultural conditioning and historical legacies, these biases often lead to the perpetuation of stereotypes and prejudices. It's like a subtle whisper in the back of our minds, nudging us towards unfounded assumptions and judgments based on race. Then, we encounter social identity theory, a psychological framework that explains how we form our sense of self and group identity. It's a double-edged sword. On one side, it fosters a sense of belonging, a feeling of us. But on the flip side, it creates a them, an outgroup marginalized and discriminated against based on race. The third thread of this complex tapestry is institutional racism. This is not just about individual attitudes or behaviors, but about discriminatory practices embedded deep within our social, economic, and political systems. It's the silent machinery that maintains and perpetuates racial disparities, often unnoticed by those not directly affected. These three threads, implicit bias, social identity theory, and institutional racism, intertwine to form the complex fabric of racism in America. They contribute to a society where some are privileged while others are marginalized, where opportunities and resources are unevenly distributed, and where prejudices and stereotypes persist. But this is not the end of the story. Recognizing these elements is an important first step in unraveling the threads of racism. It opens the door to understanding, empathy, and change. As we pull at these threads, we begin to see the possibility of a different tapestry, one woven with threads of equality, understanding, and justice. Understanding these underpinnings of racism sets the stage for us to explore how we can challenge and dismantle these harmful systems. So, how do we begin to unravel these deeply ingrained threads of racism? Well, hold tight, because we're about to dive into the transformative power of education. Picture education as a light, illuminating the dark corners of our minds where biases and stereotypes lurk. This light helps us become aware of our unconscious biases, those automatic and often unexamined assumptions we make about others based on their race. It's a bit like cleaning out a closet. We all have one, whether we admit it or not, filled with thoughts and attitudes we've accumulated over the years. Some of these are hand-me-downs, inherited from our families or culture, while others are picked up from the media or our social environment. Education helps us sort through this clutter, deciding what to keep and what to discard. And let's be honest, some of these ideas are outdated, like that old pair of bell-bottom jeans you've been holding on to since the 70s. Stereotypes, for instance, are often based on oversimplified or inaccurate views of other races. Education challenges these stereotypes, offering a more nuanced and accurate understanding of racial diversity. But education doesn't stop at the individual level. It also plays a crucial role in shaping our collective consciousness. This is where diversity and inclusion in curricula and workplaces come into play. Picture a school where children learn about different cultures, histories, and experiences, or a workplace that values diverse perspectives. Here, stereotypes begin to crumble, replaced by appreciation for our shared humanity and respect for our differences. Moreover, promoting diversity and inclusion is not just about adding a few token lessons or hiring practices. It's about fundamentally transforming how we think about and approach education and work, making them spaces where everyone feels valued and seen. In this light, education is not just about acquiring knowledge. It's also about fostering empathy, challenging assumptions, and promoting a deeper understanding of the complexities of race. It's about equipping ourselves with the tools to challenge racism, both within ourselves and in the societies we live in. Education, therefore, becomes a powerful tool to break down barriers and foster more informed and empathetic perspectives. But can mere interaction between different racial groups make a difference? Consider this: the intergroup contact theory, proposed by psychologist Gordon Allport, suggests that indeed it can. This theory posits that prejudice, that unjustified or incorrect attitude towards an individual based solely on their membership of a social group, can significantly be reduced by direct face-to-face interaction between members of different racial and ethnic groups. Now, it's not just about any interaction. For this theory to work effectively, these interactions need to be meaningful. Imagine having a conversation with someone from a different racial background, not about the weather or the latest sports scores, but about experiences, about dreams and fears, about culture and traditions. These are the types of interactions that can lead to understanding and empathy, that can help shatter stereotypes and build bridges of commonality. But where can these interactions take place? They happen in diverse social networks and spaces that encourage dialogue. Think about your workplace, your school, your neighborhood, even your online communities. These are all spaces where intergroup contact can happen, where we can learn from each other and where we can begin to break down the walls of prejudice. It's important to note that intergroup contact isn't a magic bullet. It's not going to solve all the problems of racism overnight. But it's a step in the right direction. It's a way to start changing attitudes and perceptions, one conversation at a time. Remember, it's not about forcing interactions, but about creating opportunities for them to happen. It's about making sure our social spaces are inclusive and welcoming, that they reflect the diversity of our society and encourage dialogue and understanding. So, yes, interaction between different racial groups can make a difference. It can help to reduce prejudice, to foster empathy, and to build a society that values diversity and inclusivity. Creating opportunities for meaningful interactions, therefore, can be a potent antidote to prejudice. So, how can you contribute to this fight against racism? The answer lies in understanding and embracing the concept of allyship. Being an ally means standing up for those who are being marginalized and oppressed. It's about using your privilege and influence to advocate for equality and justice on behalf of those who may not have the same opportunities. It's about listening, learning, and acting in solidarity with marginalized communities. But allyship isn't just a label, it's a lifelong commitment. It requires ongoing education, self-reflection, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. It means acknowledging and addressing your own biases and being prepared to have uncomfortable conversations about race. It means standing up against racism, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Moreover, allyship extends beyond individual actions. It's about advocating for inclusive policies and practices within institutions. This involves actively promoting diversity and inclusion in our workplaces, schools, and communities. It means challenging discriminatory practices and advocating for systemic changes that support equality and justice. Inclusion isn't just about representation, it's about ensuring everyone has an equal opportunity to participate and succeed. It's about creating environments where everyone feels valued and respected, where their voices are heard and their experiences are acknowledged. Inclusive practices can contribute significantly to dismantling systemic racism. They can help break down stereotypes, foster positive intergroup relations, and create a more equitable society. They can challenge the structures that perpetuate racism and promote a culture of respect and understanding. However, it's important to remember that advocating for inclusivity isn't just about making changes on a systemic level. It's also about fostering a culture of respect and empathy on a personal level. It's about recognizing the value of diverse perspectives and experiences and treating everyone with dignity and respect. Being an ally isn't easy, but it's necessary. It's a vital part of the fight against racism. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. It's about making a difference, one act of allyship at a time. Being an ally and promoting inclusivity, therefore, is a significant step towards eradicating racism. But what about the structural inequalities that perpetuate racism? When we delve into the systemic architecture of racism, we find that laws and policies have often been used to both create and sustain racial disparities. But the same tools can be used to dismantle these structures if wielded with equity and justice in mind. Legal reforms and policies aimed at promoting equality can address historical injustices, creating a more level playing field. Efforts to eliminate discriminatory practices in housing, for example, can help address the racial wealth gap that has been perpetuated for generations. Policies that promote equal opportunity in employment can mitigate racial disparities in income and job security. And reforms in the criminal justice system can help to rectify the disproportionate impact of punitive measures on racial minorities. In each of these areas, laws and policies can serve as powerful tools. They can either perpetuate systemic racism or help to dismantle it. Legal reforms and policies thus play a crucial role in dismantling the structural inequalities that perpetuate racism. Overcoming racism, however, is not just a personal endeavor, it's a collective journey that we must all embark on together. This journey requires us to continuously reflect on our biases, engage in open dialogues, and take proactive steps to challenge and change the status quo. It's about recognizing that our attitudes, behaviors, and decisions, whether big or small, shape the world around us. This is not a task for the faint-hearted. It calls for courage to confront our own prejudices, resilience to challenge deeply ingrained societal norms, and empathy to understand and respect our shared humanity. It requires us to acknowledge the power of diversity and to actively work towards creating an inclusive society where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued. So let's stand together in this fight against racism. Let's educate ourselves, challenge our biases, and advocate for a more equitable world. Remember, every step you take towards combating racism contributes to a more equitable and inclusive society. The journey begins with you. In the face of racism, we're not just bystanders. Each of us holds the power to bring about change. It starts with small, personal commitments, a promise to listen and learn from the experiences of others, a pledge to educate oneself on the complexities of racism, an oath to speak out against injustice even when it's uncomfortable. It's about making a conscious effort to challenge our own biases and prejudices and to actively seek out and embrace diversity. But remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey that requires patience, persistence, and a whole lot of courage. So let's embark on this journey together, one step at a time. You're not alone in this fight. Together we can make a difference. We can contribute to a more equitable and inclusive society. It all begins with you. Before we close, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content. Spread the word, share the knowledge, and let's continue this journey together.